deeper in the Spirit with the reading of the daily word, followed by our meditation song. The word for today is perspective. And we affirm, I see God everywhere. Today I view life from a divine perspective, beholding the divine in all people and circumstances. I know at a deep level that all is well, that we are supported in every way, and that we are forever one with Spirit. This view of life is not reserved for carefree days when life is peaceful and easy. In any situation and any time, I can see through chaos and confusion to the truth that all is in divine order and all is well. I am a spiritual being having a human experience. I am one with God. As I view life from this perspective, I see how God reveals itself in every living thing. And I am inspired to express the divine in every thought, word, and action. And Scripture tells us, blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. In Matthew chapter 13, verse 16. The word for today is perspective.
Please join me in singing our meditation song, Your Face of God. Of God, I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are a family. You are a face of love.
As we lift up and acknowledge all the prayers in the prayer box today, I invite you to add the prayers and concerns on your mind and heart, knowing that all requests are prayed with by our prayer chaplains and forwarded to Silent Unity, where they are prayed for an additional 30 days. We affirm that the answers and solutions to all requests are now moving into form and manifestation. Please join me now in meditation. Just relax in your seat and feel your feet on the floor and just get settled in. Just take a deep breath and let go. And allow yourself to focus on the word oneness and contemplate its reality. Just breathe. And allow that breath to breathe you. Feel the aliveness in and around your body. Just let go of any thoughts or worries. Any thoughts of needing to do things in a certain way. There's nothing to do. Remember, it is not I, but the Christ light within that does the work. Just surrender. Surrender to a power greater than anything in the universe. More powerful than any person, more powerful than any place, any situation, anything. This powerful presence created your body and all living things. Just allow yourself to relax and go even deeper. And feel how you're connected. You are one with all that is. There is only one power and one presence. And that is God the Good. As you breathe in and out, feel that goodness flow through you. This is the reality of who you are. You are full of goodness. Allow it to flow. A thought may pop up in your head, like you don't think that you deserve this goodness. Let that thought dissolve in the beauty of your Creator's love, that everlasting love. is God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. That kingdom is here now. Heaven is here now. Just move to that center of love and goodness. This is who you truly are. You are one with all life, connected to all life. And this life is good. And when you are ready, bring yourself back to this time and space. And open your eyes. So it is.
Why should I feel discouraged? And why should the shadows come? And why should my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and home when Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, so I know He watches me, and I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. And if His eye is on the sparrow, then I know He watches me. Let not your heart be troubled. His tender words I
we're going to begin for the next several weeks a discussion of the 5 unity principles. Now you received them today with your bulletin. I'd like you to take a look at them. These are the 5 unity principles that come right off the website of unity.org. I'm just going to read them. I'd like you to follow along with me. God is the source and creator of all. There's no other enduring power. God is good and present everywhere. We heard that in our beautiful meditation and in the daily word today as well. The second, we are spiritual beings created in God's image. The Spirit of God lives within each person. Therefore, all people are inherently good. Number 3, we create our life experience through our way of thinking. Number 4, there is power in affirmative prayer, which we believe increases our awareness of God. And 5, knowledge of these spiritual principles is not enough. We must live them. So today I'm going to talk about 1 and 2. Next week, Barb Christ is going to be here. Many of you know her, and she will be speaking on the 3rd principle. The week after, we will be talking about the 4th principle. And then we have our YOU service in the middle of this, which will be on February 2nd. And then the following Sunday, we'll wrap it up with a unity principle number 5. It's a really nice way for us to return to the basic premises of which unity is all about, the principles of which we're all about. Now, if you think about it, principles 1 and 2 are sort of the core of the teaching, which is God is everywhere and God is within each one of us. And then principles 3, 4, and 5 are all about what you need to do with that and how you can increase that. It's all about then changing your thinking, okay, opening up yourself to what you're doing with your life, how to pray, and those sorts of things. So the first 2 are the core and the foundation, so we're going to talk about those today. That God is our source and creator of all. So there is one God. This power, one power. Sometimes we refer to it as a power, one presence. It goes by many names. In every religion, there's a name for that presence, that power, that which is bigger than us, that which is the creator of all that is, that which is the source of all things. It goes by many names, many names. But God is our creator. Sometimes we refer to it as the power. In fact, we could say there is one power, and that power is everywhere. That power of creation, constantly moving and changing in our lives. In unity, we do call it God, and we also call it good. So, we have to think about God being ever-present. Do you believe in God? What do you believe in? Do you truly embrace that? A guy went on a fishing trip in Scotland. He was having a wonderful time in his boat fishing. And all of a sudden he noticed a movement going on in the water beneath him. And he begins to get frightened. Whatever it is coming up beneath him in the boat, and it lifts him up and the boat out of the water. And he still can't see what it is beneath him, but the boat goes one way and he goes the other way, and he looks down and he sees this huge gaping jaws of the Loch Ness Monster waiting to gobble him up. And he just screams out, God, God, please save me. And then everything goes into a freeze frame. Boat here, he's up there, jaws down there. And then this booming voice comes forth and says, this is God. You've never called on me before, my child. I didn't think you believed in me. And the guy says, well, give me a break. Up until a minute ago, I didn't believe in the Loch Ness Monster either. Which is not uncommon for us to all of a sudden, when we find ourselves in desperate times or difficult times, to turn to something which is greater than us. When we reach that point where we can no longer control or handle or deal with all the things that are happening in our lives, and we turn to God. It's a power, it's an energy, and it's a consciousness. Sometimes we refer to it as a higher power in many of the 12-step programs. And sometimes we might have difficulty in believing in it. What is it? Who is it? We argue about it. We fight wars over it. Most of the wars in our world are about who's God. And whose God is mightier or stronger, whatever. They're all one God, no matter what name we give it. It's all one. In fact, it's an energy, it's a consciousness, it's so many more things. In fact, science is beginning to tell us that this one God, this one power is so amazing. Albert Einstein said this: everyone who's seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that a spirit is manifest in the laws of the universe, a spirit vastly superior to man. That which is greater than us, that's the creator of all that is. So God is our source. We say that in unity so often, that God is our source, and we must allow God into our hearts, into our minds, open our hearts and minds to love, and turn everything over to God. When we often say we release and let go and let God. So what are we releasing when we do that? We release control. We will, in particular, we release the illusion of control. Because we never really do have control. We like to think that we do. And a lot of times our ego, which is very defended and very open to it, what our ego will often tell us is that we are separate. We are different. We are not part of that one. And we are. We are all part of the one. So when we release and let go and let God, we turn it over to that higher power, to that which is greater than us, that enables us then to bring forth into our world that which we desire. God does so much more than we, so much greater than we are. So with God at our source, all things are possible. There is infinite power, infinite energy. That is what God is. Nothing can be more powerfully illuminating than to imagine our solar system, our universe. Do you know that they are now discovering billions and billions of universes that have been created? I mean, it's beyond our comprehension to think of the world in which we live. It is totally beyond our comprehension, and that is God. Sometimes God is beyond our comprehension as well. So the second principle, very much tied to the first, that if God is everywhere, then we are one with God as well. That does not exclude us. We are one with God, and God is within each one of us. This key point distinguishes us from many other religions. For many other religions, think of God as something outside of ourselves. God is everywhere. It certainly is outside of ourselves. It's all around us. It's in the billions and billions of universes that exist. But it is also within us. That God is within us. The Spirit of God is living within each of us. And we are having a human, we talk about this, we are spiritual beings having a human existence. But more importantly, we should understand that we are God. Everything is God. And God is expressing through you. Every moment of every day. Regardless of what you are doing, thinking, being, God is expressing through you. Sometimes we forget that. And we revert to our humanity. There were two people camping out in the desert. They set up their tent and they fell asleep. Some hours later, one awakens his friend and says, "Hey, look up at the sky and tell me what you see." The second one says, "Well, I see millions of stars." "What does that tell you?" asked the first. The second one ponders a moment and he says, "Well, astronomically speaking, it means there are millions of galaxies and potentially billions of planets. Astrologically, it tells me the moon is in Capricorn. Theologically, it is evident the Great Spirit is all-powerful and we are amidst a mighty power. Meteorologically, it seems we have a beautiful day tomorrow. What does it tell you, my friend?" The first one is silent for a moment, then he says, "Someone has stolen our tent." So we think about that. What do we really see? Where do we put our attention? What do we focus on? What is it there that we begin to experience? How do we look at our lives? Do we look through the lens of our humanity, or do we look through the lens of our spirituality? Because as we are created by God, we are co-creators with God, and there's a power in the universe, and you can use it. That is the crux of the New Thought teaching. There is a power in the universe, and you can use it. God is everywhere, and God is expressing through you. We oftentimes think about Jesus, the man, the human being who understood his own nature. He constantly turned to that indwelling God. He talked about God or the Father, and he asked God or his Father for help, for daily guidance and counsel. And he said, "My Father and I are one, just as you and God are one." And he said, "My Father is the one who does the work, the Father within." He clearly understood that unity of God and humanity, and he used the power of God, power of the universe, and you can use it. And he used it to create all the miracles. And we can use it to create miracles as well. And he said, "What I do, you can do also." There's a wonderful story titled "The Rabbi's Gift," and it's about, interestingly enough, a monastery. And there were all these monks who lived and thrived, and all the people in the village would come up and be with them, and they loved it, and there was just a thriving community. And then something started to happen. The monks started to argue amongst themselves, and they were debating religion, and they were not sure about this principle or that principle, and they were having difficulties, and all of a sudden they became at odds with one another, and different cliques began to set up, and the monks started to feel separate from one another and separate from their God, and all of a sudden the village people didn't want to come up anymore. They didn't like the tension and the arguing, and the whole monastery was just falling into just decay, because the monks were no longer in this nice, united way of being. So one of the monks went to a nearby rabbi that he heard was very spiritual. And he went to the rabbi and he says, "What can we do? How can we fix this? We need your guidance." The rabbi said, "I have nothing to tell you." And the monk was very, very sad. He said, "Oh my goodness." He said, "Nothing?" And he said, "Well, yes." He said, "I can tell you one thing. This is the Messiah that you often speak of is one of you." And the monk said, "Really?" And the rabbi said, "Yes." So the monk took this news back to the rest of the monks, and he said, "The rabbi, that great spiritual man, that we all revere so much has told us that the Messiah is one of them. So then each monk started to think, oh, I wonder if it's you. I better be nice to you. Oh, I wonder if it's you. Oh, I must show love to you because I love my Messiah. And it went around, and all of a sudden, all the monks were thinking it might be somebody else, and they started to treat them with greater kindness and with greater love. And then all of a sudden, someone said, I wonder if it's me. What if it's me? And started to change his behavior and act as though he were the Messiah. And pretty soon all the monks were acting like the Messiah, that they were God, that God was expressing through them. And all of a sudden, all of the tension and all of the disagreements and everything just melted away, and they began to just embrace one another in love and care. And the village people began to come back, and they felt the great love that was emanating from the monastery, and it grew and it flourished and it prospered in love. What if you are the Messiah? What if one of us, right in here, right now, is the Messiah? Or is God expressing? How would you treat one another knowing that everyone present here is God? There's something else that is very characteristic of these unity principles, and it talks about everything as being good. Okay? God is good, all right? And we are created in the image of God, and therefore all people are inherently good. So we always talk about everyone is good. Well, there's something about that. I think this is more than a statement of truth. I think it's an invitation. To see everything as good is to create more good in our lives. When we acknowledge that everything is good and we focus on that which is good, we begin to create a good consciousness, and therefore we attract good. That means everything that happens in our lives is good. Everything is good. Now, our humanity may struggle with that. I have a personal story, which I just love. This was 14 years ago. I bought a new car, brand new car, okay? And I just, really liked my car. I'd searched for it for a long time. I still have this car, okay? It's my Jeep that I have for 14 years. I love this car. I can't seem to buy a new one because I just love this car. At any rate, I bought this car 14 years ago, and I got it, and guess what? It had a squeak. One of those, oh my God, my car is squeaking. This is a brand new car. How could it possibly be squeaking? And I was just so disturbed by this, okay, this squeak. So I take it into the dealership. And inevitably, I get into the dealership, and we drive it, and it wouldn't squeak. The minute I would leave the dealership, it would squeak. It's like you go to the doctor, and you're sick, and all of a sudden you're in the doctor's office, and you're not sick anymore. I mean, it was so annoying to me. I had it into the dealership 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And they finally told me, there's nothing we can do. We can't find the squeak. The only thing we could do is to take the whole, dashboard and everything all apart and put it back together again and hope that we find it. Well, that sounded, not so great. He said, and we can't guarantee that we won't create more squeaks in the process. You'll have to sign a waiver. And I said, no. I said, but can I just get a new car? Can you just take the car back and give me another one? Well, you know what that answer was. No, they wouldn't do that. So here I have this squeak. Well, my brand new car was so annoying and so frustrating and so disturbing to me, I said, I have to do something about this. And that's when, all of a sudden, these principles, New Thought principles, came to mind. And I said, okay, everything happens for a divine purpose. Squeak is for a divine purpose. So what I did is I started to think about the squeak, and I said, I know. This squeak, and I reframed it, if you will, and I started to think about the squeak as God talking to me. So every time I heard the squeak, oh, there's God. I actually started talking to it. I would talk to the squeak, and I would tell what my current problems were, what was going on. Squeak would squeak back at me, and it's like, oh, I'm getting answers, this is great. You know, I'd have this dialogue with the squeak. And after a while, I came to look forward to the conversations with the squeak. And then all of a sudden, the squeak would not be there all the time. It would sort of like not be there, and then all of a sudden it would pop up and start squeaking. And inevitably, it would pop up whenever I was in a bad, difficult frame of mind, where I was trying to deal with a problem, or I was upset about something, and all of a sudden, squeak, squeak, squeak. Oh yeah, God, okay. I need to calm down, you know. And so the squeak became a powerful, almost aphrodisiac for me to bring me peace and love and help me center. I loved that squeak. And gradually over time, it kind of disappeared. And to this day, I miss my squeak. But I love that car. You know, and it's sort of interesting, because what can you do with a reframe like that? Something that could have been totally disturbing and upsetting to me was good. Anything that we look at in our life, if we look at it as, wow, is this good? How does this bring me closer to God? How does it evolve for me into something that is rich and powerful and wonderful? How can I find the good in this? Whatever it may be, you can reframe it into something good. And in so doing, find God in it. So we say that everything is good. In fact, sometimes that's difficult. Our humanity says, well, no, it's not. Okay? But from a spiritual perspective, perhaps it is. It is wonderful in any situation. So a lot of opportunities can come forth to us when we can focus on the good. When we say we are one with God, there can be no separation. How can we be separate from the universe? How can we be separate from our world? We can't. We are one with it. But whenever we do feel separate, or we separate in some way, and that's our ego. And it's not real. It's the illusion. The truth is that we are all part of God, and we are all expressing God in everything that we do. I want to close with the parable of the salt. And it's wonderful because it also highlights our humanity and our spirituality and the degree to which we can shift from both. An aging Hindu master grew tired of his apprentice complaining. So he said, one morning he said, all right, I want you to get some salt. So the apprentice returned, and the master instructed this unhappy young man to put a handful of the salt in a glass of water and drink it. How does it taste, the master said. Well, bitter, said the apprentice, who was complaining about this little task. The master chuckled, and then he asked the young man to take the same handful of salt, another handful of salt, and put it in the lake. The two walked in silence to a nearby lake, and once the apprentice swirled his handful of salt in the water, the old man said, now, take a glass of water and drink it. How does it taste? Not fresh, replied the apprentice. Did you taste the salt, said the master. No, said the young man. The master said, the pain of life, or the humanity of life, is pure salt. No more, no less. It's just salt. The amount of pain or suffering in life remains the same, exactly the same. However, the amount of bitterness we taste depends on the container we put it in. So when you are in pain, or when you don't like what's going on, or when you are complaining, or whenever this is not to your liking, The only thing you can do is enlarge your sense of things. Stop being a glass and become the light. So no matter what is happening in our lives, if we think about it and things are bitter or not, well, stop being glass and become the light. Because that's when we open up to our spirituality, when we recognize our oneness with God, and we recognize that we are expressing God in all that we do. God is everywhere. God is here with us. And you are one of them. And there's a power in the universe, and you can use it. And so,
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright, blessed day, the dark, sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful the colors of the rainbow, they're so pretty in the sky. They're also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky. They're also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands. They're saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn so